Welcome, boys and girls. My name is Miss Noreen, and I'm here with you for another exciting lesson in ELA. Today's lesson focus will be ELA Grade 3, Module 9, Lesson 13, Into Reading from Farm to Table. The lesson focus will be, what can I do to make sure I understand what I am reading? Say that with me. What can I do to make sure I understand what I am reading? Today's lesson's objective will be to monitor comprehension and make adjustments to improve understanding when needed. Also, to discuss what can I do to make sure I understand what I am reading. Today, boys and girls, we are going to learn how to monitor and clarify a text so we are able to better understand what it is that we are reading. So first thing, let's talk about what does it mean to monitor the text that you are reading. Well, monitor is when you stop to make sure you understand what you are reading. It is very similar to questioning, but monitor focuses on making sure you understand. It is very important for us to understand what it is we're reading and think about it because it will help us understand the overall text that we are reading. Now, also along with monitoring, we're going to learn to clarify. What does clarify mean? I will tell you. Clarify is when you stop to make sure the meaning of the text is clear to the reader. Clarify is when you use various strategies to figure out the meaning of the text. So sometimes we come across unfamiliar words, or we might come across ideas we do not understand, and that is why we will have to clarify those thoughts, ideas, or words. When do you monitor and clarify a text? Well, a reader can monitor and clarify a text throughout reading a text. They can do it during their reading, they can do it after their reading, and they can also do it while they are reading. What are some questions that you can ask yourself when you are monitoring or clarifying a text? Well, you stop and you think, boys and girls. You think to yourself, what is happening in the story? What clues have led you to think that? Does the story make sense? Does this text remind you of anything you already know? These are questions that you can ask yourself in order to monitor and clarify the text you are reading. Let's watch a quick video on what it means to have good reading skills, which help us to be able to monitor and clarify a text.
I think I just read the same sentence 10 times in a row, and I still couldn't tell you what it was about. Maybe it is time for a break. Sorry. What I was going to say is, there's no point in reading if you're not taking in what you read. Before you even sit down to read a book or article or textbook chapter, there's some prep work you can do to improve your reading and comprehension. Preview the text so you know what you're reading. Okay, this chapter of my social studies book is about the Harlem Renaissance. I don't really know anything about that. I mean, I've heard of it. I know that Harlem's a part of New York City. Well, I'm going to learn about it right now. You can skim or quickly look over what you're reading to get an overall impression. Pay attention to section headings and words in bold. Let's see, writers of the Harlem Renaissance, Langston Hughes. Hey, I've read some of his writing.
Take notes while you read. Use note cards or a notebook to write down important ideas.
Hang on a sec. Take your time. Stop and reread anything that you don't understand. And jot down any words that you don't know. There's one, ragtime. That way you can look it up later. If you can put what you're reading into your own words, you'll know you can understand it. So, the Harlem Renaissance was a time that celebrated African American heritage and culture. And obviously, it took place in New York City, in Harlem. If you have time, it's a great idea to reread your assignment. You may have missed something the first time through. You can also go back over your notes to refresh your memory. I'm reading a textbook, but you can apply these reading skills to anything you read. Oh yeah, Moby and I like to make a movie in our heads. If you can visualize what you're reading, you know you're getting it. This helps a lot when you're reading a novel, like a book report book, where you have to keep track of a story and characters. When you're done with a reading assignment, there's nothing wrong with talking to friends, parents, or teachers about what you've read. Talking about a text helps you better understand it and form ideas of your own. You might carry these ideas over into a paper or presentation. Oh, and you can look up those new vocabulary words. Okay, Moby, ragtime is a type of jazz music that has a syncopated rhythm. Moby? Well, I'm gonna get back to reading this. I don't think I mentioned this, but it's a good idea to find a quiet place to read your book. I'm going to the library.
Boys and girls, smart readers monitor and clarify while they're reading by thinking about the details in the text. You can monitor by asking yourself, does this make sense? You can clarify by rereading, reading ahead, or using the illustration. All these are strategies for being able to monitor and clarify the text you are reading. A good reader, when they are monitoring, asks themselves questions. Did I understand that? And in order to clarify information, they reread, read ahead, use clues, use pictures, and think about what they already know. So let's try this strategy out together, boys and girls. Here is a piece of text. I'm going to read it to you, and I want you to follow along as I read. Apple wants to move the internet from your pocket to your wrist. Time will tell if millions of consumers are willing to spend $350 on up. There's an 18-karat gold version that starts at $10,000 for a wearable device that still requires a wirelessly connected smartphone to deliver its most powerful features. So in order to monitor what I'm reading, I have to ask myself these questions, boys and girls. Does the text make sense to me? Do I know what's happening in the text? What clues am I going to use about what I know to get a better understanding of the text? I will retell the text in my own words to see if I know what's happening. Also, are there any words that I do not know? All of these are questions you need to ask yourself while you are reading a text in order to effectively monitor and clarify. So here is my passage, and here are my notes for this passage. I know that the passage is about Apple Company. I know the Apple Company makes electronics. I know this passage is telling me that they will make a watch with internet on it. My brother has an Apple Watch. He uses it with his smartphone to access his messages and other apps. So since I have this background information, I know a little bit more about what they're talking about in this text. Some words that I need to look up are maybe consumers. When I look up the word consumers, it tells me they are people that buy things. So now I have a good understanding of what this passage is about because I was able to ask myself, do I know what's happening in the text? And does this make sense? Now, boys and girls, you try this on your own. Remember, you will get the passage, and these are the questions that you need to keep in mind. Does the text make sense? Do I know what's happening in the text? What clues am I going to use about what I know to get a better understanding of the text? You will retell the text in your own words. And are there any words that you do not know? Are you ready for the passage? Here we go. Okay, boys and girls, now this is the passage that you're going to read and ask yourself the questions. Now it's on your wrist. It's not in your pocket or pocketbook, Cook said before unveiling the new line. We think the Apple Watch is going to be integral to your day. Apple wants this wristwatch, which piggybacks on a nearby smartphone's internet connection through Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, to be seen as so revolutionary that it requires its own lingo. So in order to monitor, I'm going to think, what is this passage about? Does it make sense? Retell the passage in your own words. And what are words that you do not know? I'm going to give you a few minutes, boys and girls. Go ahead and answer those questions in your notebook and then come back to the video to see some of the responses. Welcome back, boys and girls. Let's see some answers to these questions that we can come up with. So what is this passage about? The passage is about the Apple Watch. Does it make sense? Yes, it is telling me about how the Apple Watch is going to change things. Retell the passage in your own words. Apple thinks that this watch will make everything different because people will have it on their wrists. What are some words that you do not know? I don't know the words integral, but I looked it up and it means important. I also did not know what the word revolutionary meant, so I looked it up and it means something that causes change. Excellent work, boys and girls. Now it's game time, boys and girls. We're going to use the skills we just learned and apply it to a game. Are you ready? Here we go. All right, boys and girls, we will start the game. You will follow along and see how many questions you can get correct. Here we go. Number 1, good readers monitor and clarify their understanding during reading to increase comprehension. That is true. Good readers do monitor and clarify while reading to get a better understanding. When you don't understand a word, you should look it up in a dictionary or glossary, look for context clues, decode it again, or all of the following. I think that it's all of those great strategies. Next question, boys and girls. When you don't understand a word, you should ask the teacher what it means, make up a word, decode it again, or skip the word. I believe it's decode it again. Awesome work. How can a reader keep track of their questions and answers they have while reading? Write them down off to the side and take notes. Remember what questions and answers that you had while reading. You don't have to do anything or look at images and text features. I think they have to write them down to the side and take notes. All right, boys and girls, 5th question. When a section of the text is confusing, you should ask a friend, just keep reading, make it up, or look at images and text features. I think it's always great to look at the pictures and text features to get a better understanding. Number 6, it is not important to periodically stop and think about what you have read. That is false. You should always stop and think about what you read. And the last question, you should ask questions before, during, and after reading. That is true. You should do that. Awesome work, boys and girls. You did such an amazing job with answering these questions with me. Let's continue with the rest of our lesson. Okay, boys and girls, it's time for the independent part of this lesson. For your independent work, what you will be doing is you will be reading independently. While you are reading, you will track your reading. Today, you will practice the strategy of monitoring and clarifying. You will have this chart with you to help you be able to monitor and clarify while reading. You'll always have to ask yourself the question, do I understand what I just read? If you do not, then you need to decode the words, look for context clues, replace words, look in a dictionary, or reread what you just have read. If you do understand what's going on, then you take notes and you keep going and look for more details. So it's always important, boys and girls, to stop, think, and really process what is happening in the story. All right, boys and girls, you will utilize this graphic organizer to help you monitor and clarify. In the first column, you will monitor. You will write down something you do not understand while you are reading the text in front of you. So you will jot down the page number and any misunderstanding. Next column, you will jot down what you used to clarify that information. What is your fix-up strategy? Did you look at the pictures? Did you break up the words? Did you reread? Did you read ahead? What was the strategy you utilized? You will jot this down in the second column. And then in the third column, you will jot down what you know now. So based on the strategy that you utilize, what do you know now, which will allow you to keep reading and have a better understanding of the text. So you will utilize this graphic organizer for your independent work part of this lesson, boys and girls. Thank you so much for listening, boys and girls. I hope you will utilize this strategy. Once again, to summarize, today we learned how to monitor and clarify while reading. We went over some strategies which we can utilize while we are reading a text, which will help us get a better understanding of what it is we are reading. This is Miss Noreen logging off. Happy learning, boys and girls.